lesson just for the Hebrews in the wilderness. It's our lesson. But wait a minute. You're not hard-hearted, are you? I'm pretty sure I'm not hard-hearted. I'm convinced that I'm actually a pretty caring guy, probably even able to be compassionate. Don't you think the same thing about you? That you're caring and tender and good and loving? Sure. I prefer that to thinking other things. But now and then something happens that kind of is a slap in my face, a wake-up call, if you will. For example, years ago there was a man on Union, and I saw him almost every time I drove down Union. He would be standing on the street, sometimes stepping into the street, and around his neck he wore a large picture of the Virgin Mary. And he would shout to the people who came by and wave his arms frantically because he was against abortion. His car, which was often parked nearby, was literally completely covered with anti-abortion stickers. And as I drove by looking at that guy, I have to be honest with you, I said to myself, what a nut job. I can't believe that guy's out there embarrassing himself like that. I don't know how many times I saw him do it until one day it hit me. Wait a minute. This is a man who is passionate about what he believes, what he thinks his faith compels him to do. He's not crazy. He's passionate. He's dedicated. He's warm-hearted. It's not as if I suddenly changed my mind about abortion, but I certainly changed my mind about that man. Well, it happens. We don't know what we're doing, and suddenly a person's not a nut job anymore. Suddenly they're people full of compassion. He was as faithful and as caring as he knew how to be. One more story. And I'm not telling you to make me look good, because I don't think they do make me look good. I'm embarrassed a little bit. I attend church at St. Mary's Cathedral, and we have, on Saturday morning and Wednesday morning, we feed the hungry, the homeless. On Saturday morning, it's a little to-go bag. On Wednesday morning, it's a hot breakfast. I have to tell you that for a long time I thought, well, that's a good thing to do, I suppose. But I don't want to be part of it, because I'm convinced a lot of those people are just taking advantage of us. It's not right, I said to myself. It's not right. I worked hard for what I had. See why I'm a little embarrassed. And then one day I'm sitting there in church, and all of a sudden, and I don't even remember what happened or why this thought hit me. I'm pretty sure it was God slapping me upside the head. I thought, wait a second. It's not my job to judge whether or not somebody's taking advantage of me. Jesus said, feed the hungry. He didn't say, check and make sure they deserve it. And I thought, okay. And so, not only have I changed my attitude about that program, you'll find me down there on Wednesday morning scraping plates and wiping off dirty trays. It's no big, wonderful statement, but if somebody didn't do it, well, then it might be harder for these 150 people to have a meal on Wednesday morning. I hated that my heart needed softening up. I hate it that I have those times when I'm hard-hearted. Look, I've been in church all my life. So have you. At some time, a very long time ago, a time I remember as vividly as if it were just a couple of days ago, but still a very long time ago, I said that I would do this as my vocation. I would be a caring person. And I'm not saying I suck at it, but I'm saying I have room for improvement. Jesus said, when you minister to the least of these, my children, you're ministering to me. He didn't say, it's okay just to pray for them. Just pray for those who are in prison. You don't have to go see them. Just pray for the hungry. That somehow manna will come down. You don't have to actually feed them. He didn't say those things. We live in a really turbulent time in our world where there's so much contention about everything, where we're able to argue about the most innocent of things, where we're at each other's throats politically. And, I don't understand that. My experience of government is that the Senate and the House are deliberative bodies who talk to each other and who come up with compromises that aren't always good, but at least they're people who have their hearts in the right place. And now I don't see that anymore, and it's scaring me to death. They tell us that we're despoiling our world, that our grandchildren and their children will live in a very different world from the one you and I have enjoyed so much. And yet, many of us call those people tree huggers and argue about the fake news of climate change. Is that hard-hearted? Many think that the poor, the unemployed, the homeless are like that because they want to be. They're like that because they know we'll take care of them. If they just tried harder, it would all be okay, we tell ourselves. I did it. My family grew up modestly, is the nicest word I can think of. At the moment, we had no idea. I had no idea how poor we were until I got older and knew the difference between being poor and not being poor. I just knew that somehow, however life was then, it had to be better for me in the future, and I would do whatever it took. So, of course, I would think, well, doesn't everybody think that way? But then I also had loving and encouraging parents who wanted more for me than they had had. We're mad at the rich, too, because they got rich on their backs and they're not paying their fair share. We're mad at the poor because they won't lift a finger and they're sucking life right out of us. And I'm telling you, all of that is a bad example of our being hard-hearted. And I get it. I understand the skepticism here. Maybe it's right to think we're being taken advantage of. Heck, maybe we are being taken advantage of. But on the other hand, maybe there's something to this thing. Maybe when we weren't paying attention, our hearts became deaf and blind to the needs around us. Bad things have been going on in our economy. I know that it certainly impacted us. Some of us are still trying to recover from the from the hit that our savings took after 2008. The world seems to be a huge mess right now. For the first time in decades, I have to think about being blown up by an atomic bomb. Maybe it's understandable that we're frightened. Maybe it's understandable that we're trying to pull in and circle our wagons and take care of our own. Maybe that all makes some kind of sense. But does that mean we should do that at the exclusion of everyone else? We can't forget the lesson of Meribah and Massah. God cared for his people every step of the way, and because it wasn't fast enough, he got blamed. They doubted his love. You and I have been blessed. Haven't we? I certainly feel blessed. We've been blessed, not just with material things, although none of us are going to miss a meal today, I bet you anything. We've been blessed with something far more important than that. We've been grafted into the root of Jesse. We have become one with our Savior. We just can't let this kind of thinking continue in our world. If we're not the ones who stand up and say, wait a minute, we can't be this hard-hearted, who's going to do it? Just the very reason this story was repeated over and over, because the Old Testament writers knew it is so easy for us to turn inward and to be hard-hearted. We have to be reminded to not do it. God's people have to act like God's people. And I'm not asking for grand gestures here. Just go scrape some plates, wipe off some trays. That'd be a really good start. And do it not out of guilt, but out of the the joy of the heart made warm by God's love. Amen. Our closing hymn this morning is Seek Ye